Ready? Just, if you cannot hear us, just tell. Speaking on the mic is always a lot of fun. Ready? Here we go. Hello. Welcome to Vitra. Very happy to have you all here tonight. I'm Jimmy. I'm from Helsinki, Finland. Finland is that country up there where they speak a funny language. What else do they have in Finland? Finland is also named as the happiest country in the world for 8 years in a row. We're also known for a top-tier education, nature, safety, equality, Santa Claus, a lot of good design. I'm also an Aalto enthusiast, and I got to work with Artek for about 6 years until last year. Feet and Tor, the guys who pretty much run this Vitra North America show here, they called me and they asked if I would be interested in relocating to San Francisco. I'm not gonna lie, I let them wait for about 25 minutes before saying yes. And now I get to call the Bay my home. The most beautiful, naturally gifted geographical wonderland on earth. It's fun there. But we gathered here to celebrate Artek's 90th anniversary. Again, thank you for coming through. So happy to have you guys here. And last year, before I moved to San Francisco, I had an opportunity to connect and hang out with these boys here. They were invited to Helsinki by our mutual friend Adam Tickle, who's running this community-driven initiative called Helsinki Playground. You made a little collab. Adam called me and he asked, like, hey, these guys are coming to Helsinki, you want to join us? We're going to visit some architecture. And I saw a great excuse to skip work for 3 days. And I'm happy I did, because now we're sitting over here. And we're going to discuss a little bit what you saw over there, what you experienced. Kind of trying to keep it within the Aalto universe, but I think we're going to go a little bit over that. And we also took you to saunas is another thing that is close to our heart for any Finn. And you saw a couple of saunas, and if we have time at the end, we might rate the best ones in Helsinki. And speaking of Finland, how many of you has been in Finland? How many is actually from Finland? Oh wow, my Finns showed up. Well, for my Finns, tervetuloa, kiva, että pääsitte paikalle. Mä tuun varmaan puhua aika paljon palturia tänään, ei tarvitse rupea yhtään huutelee sieltä. Juokaa vaan kiltisti sitä ilmasta lonkeroa, kiitos. Just told them how much I love them. Before we get started, it was Artek's 90th anniversary, October 15. And on October 15, I came across this text online, which I completely stole. and I want to read it for you. Feels like being in a school again. Few designers shaped the language of modern design like Alvar Aalto. His work dissolved boundaries between furniture and architecture, craft and production, work and precision. Nearly a century later, his ideas still resonate. Aalto approached design as a Gesamtkunstwerk, a total work of art. With his wife and collaborator, Aino, they designed every element together, from architecture to furniture, lighting to textiles. In 1935, Aino and Alvar Aalto, together with Maire Gulliksen and Nils Gustav Hall, founded Artek, a company built to bring their modernist ideals to life. For Aalto, industry was never a replacement for craft, but a way to extend it, to make thoughtful design accessible, repeatable, and human in scale. Their modular approach, rooted in adaptability and intention, continues to shape how we think about design today. And here we are, 90 years later, still discussing about these modern lifestyle. So what's up, boys? You want to tell something? What's going on in your life? Just introduce yourself.
Happy to be here. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of new faces.
I feel the love. Happy to just talk about what we've been up to and learning, and our trip there, and the incredible hospitality that Jimmy and Adam and everyone's shown us. We definitely try to replicate that with the experience at Lichen and everything we're doing. So yeah, happy to elaborate, give some context, and share new insights.
Sweet. Do we have the someone who works here for the presentation? Do we know where it is? Oh.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So when we were in, thank you. So kind of you to take care of it, huh? So when you were in Helsinki, we got to visit. I remember the first day, you guys were jet lagged, as I'm not going to say it out loud, but you were very jet lagged. We were pretty much like running around the neighborhoods, and you were taking a little nap every time we left from somewhere until we reached the point B. We got to visit Aalto University, Aalto campus in Espoo, in the burbs of Helsinki. We got to visit Aalto House, studio. You came through our second cycle, our vintage shop. You visited our office. We also got to visit some other Finnish design legends spaces. Example, Yrjö Kukkapuro, his studio, and then we also got to visit Antti and Vuokko Nurmesniemi home. And here's actually our boy, Jared, repping Helsinki. This is actually a bit of a recent picture, right?
That's a recent picture. Picked it up in Japan from this amazing curator named Terry Ellis. He has a shop called Mogi Folk Art. Amazing curation, and definitely check it out whenever you're out there. So.
Huge Aalto lover too.
Huge Aalto lover, love it. And then we'll go into the topic of the night. Here's a picture from Aalto home, which was done in the 1930s by Aino and Alvar Aalto. And my first question actually is not about this place, but it's to ask, were there any aspects of Finnish design culture that felt familiar or surprising when compared to your own work in New York?
I think just the general warmth of everything. Everything was nice and wood. We love our wood. And tonal, like there weren't loud, crazy colors, like Kukupuro, for instance. And Aalto, just probably one of our favorite designers of all time. Just our stuff resonates with his because in the beginning, when we first started designing furniture, we used a lot of Baltic birch, which is, a key material that he uses, and it felt like us. Yeah.
And there's like a color, Ruska? Yeah.
In the fall when the leaves are dropping.
Yeah. So it's like a specific kind of brown tone. When we did our collaboration with Helsinki Playground, we were thinking of colors that would be appropriate to use. I think we were thinking like a blue, yellow, like these positive colors that make Finland so positive, apparently. But the Ruska was like a nice like fall texture, and it is a color, but it's also like a vibe, and him trying to relay that. Definitely, there's like the mugs that we got, and they encapsulate that feeling.
Sweet. Maybe as a follow-up for that one, I wrote here that the Aalto is designed for real communities, from sanatoriums to libraries. What role does community play when you think about design at Lichen? I've called this place Lichen for the last 2 years. I just learned it this week that it's Lichen. And my colleagues were asking, like, what are you talking about? What is this design practice called Lichen?
Yeah, I mean, communities always played a large part of our DNA. We're two people of color and the design industry as a whole in New York. And I think when we started, we just felt like we were underrepresented, and we were doing it for us. And then everybody else just kind of joined us, and it's been a whole lot of love since then.
How long have you been on the drag? Started in 20?
Like 2017. I think we first opened in 2018. Our first designs were in Baltic birch, and that was a response to community. Honestly, that was a response to what was the most economic way we could participate in design outside of vintage. It was very price point driven. A lot of listening. Like if someone's like, I just want a coffee table for $350, that's this by this. There's those parameters will like invent the table, and it happened to be birch at the time, and it wasn't so much a choice, but rather a response.
I love the birch. We got a lot of birch here behind. Finland is also covered by birch forest. And a few questions about the Aalto studio and house. I wrote here, what surprised you most about experiencing house and studio in person? But I'd like to do the follow-up. Like, did seeing Alvar and Aino's work up close challenge or reinforce your previous understanding of them? Because obviously you mentioned that you've been inspired by Aalto, you read about Aalto, you read about the whole history of them. Did that view change when you came and visited Finland and you got to experience these spaces in person?
I think, did we visit the sanatorium?
We did not.
We did not, okay. We visited the studio, and it felt like unlike any other studio that we visited. Everything just kind of had this human touch to it, like no sharp lines, everything was nice and soft, curves everywhere. It's kind of unlike anything in the US, at least to us, and being in New York specifically. The auditorium was crazy at Aalto University as well, just being there.
Yeah, this is from the Aalto University. Alvar.
These little green dots are like little patches of lichen, which is everywhere. It's anywhere that I've been, I've always seen it from, I've not really gone anywhere and haven't seen it, so I think that was enlightening, reaffirming. I think Finland in general, I think the commitment to the infrastructure that supports that positivity is, you can see it in the education, you can see it in where the schools are located. I was talking when we picked up Adam and his son Cosmo from school, and the school is like right by this beach, and I can't fathom having an education system by a beach, and I wonder what that does to someone. And when you meet Finnish people, there's like a really earnest honesty that was apparent, and I think culturally we were able to see like some of the reasons why that exists. It's like, oh, if your school is here, then if designers and architects that we appreciate and cherish are doing hospitals with emotional and empathetic approach to design, you can see like, are there forms of healing? And we definitely don't really have or exercise that. So it was inspiring to see like what can be done. I think in the States, we tend to appreciate a lot of architecture through the lens of those architects' product design. But when you go into like a structure of a product designer's architecture, you're like, oh, okay, I can see like the Paimio chair, I can see what that would feel like in an actual building. And you can feel it, you can feel somewhere that doesn't have 90-degree angles. It's a very emotional, yeah, you could feel it.
It's bugging a little bit. No? Someone want to take over, Zoe? I think from my point of view, it's kind of fun that when I was younger, I was not that into design. I think my interest has kind of like changed throughout the years. I think it first started liking like clothes. I didn't buy my clothes from H&M. Then it kind of like went up to sneakers. But then like later on I realized, and probably like many friends here who also are now, that we still had a lot of, I did never consider my mom would be like any design head or would be interested in design, but we would still have Aalto vases at home. We had a stool at home, but those stools were everywhere. I remember they were in kindergarten, school, elementary school, middle school. Then later on, when I kind of realized with Artek that it's, I can't believe that I'm actually telling. When I realized that Artek was cool was actually when I moved by myself when I was 19. I moved into this little shoebox which was probably like 200 square feet. My net worth was my bed and my Xbox 360 and TV at that time. And I thought the coolest thing ever would have this counter desk. And then I would get my bar stools with black leather and polished base on it. I thought that was the coolest stuff back then. Then my brother-in-law kind of noticed that I didn't have any furniture. He called me. He was like, hey, you can come pick up. I got this table and chairs in my basement, and you can come pick it up, and kind of like assembled and put it together. And I went there. I didn't even know there was Artek. I went there, picked it up, went home, put it together. I was like, cool. Now my home looks like middle school. Then about like 6 months goes by. I met this gal who would later become my first girlfriend. And I remember she walking to my place for the first time, and there was the chairs and the table and the bed and Xbox. And she comes in and she just saws the table. She's like, oh my God, you have an Artek table? And my stupid ass over there, yeah, doesn't everybody have them? And then I kind of realized that was the like turning point. This was probably like when I was 19, 2009. That was the turning point for myself that I was like, oh, it's actually cool. And I kind of like started paying a little bit more attention to it. And then a decade later, I was employed by Artek, and these stools literally like changed my life. It's like I get to live in California. That's wild. But that's how it's. I feel like that's for many other Finns here. That it's kind of like this design and Finnish design, and it's surrounded by us, and you kind of like grow up to it to some extent. That it's always been there. Here I have another. The Aaltos collaborated across architecture, furniture, textiles, and glass. Did you see Lichen as a multidisciplinary from the beginning in a similar spirit, or does your version of that look different in the 21st century New York? Oh yeah, sorry. Did you see Lichen as a multidisciplinary from the beginning in a similar spirit, or does your version of that look different in the 21st century New York? As of working across architecture, furniture, textiles, and glass, and you as well, you do a lot of different things. So from the beginning on, what was your kind of like idea, that what you wanted to kind of like do it?
I feel like survival, honestly. I feel like from this point to the origin, I feel like has been trying to pay bills, trying to keep the lights on, and I feel like Artek and Aalto and Aino are pretty timeless and universally appreciated designs by a lot of people in our community. I don't think they have a type, you know, and I think from a price point, design perspective, I think we live by like there's something for everyone. I think we try to approach everything we carry with, you may not love everything, but there will be something in here that you like. And I think a lot of people can understand the practicality of a stool. And I think even like the relationship between this stool and, I don't know if we can say the Frosta, the IKEA nemesis to it. But you know when it is and when it isn't. And I think some of that integrity is like, it's not that, it's different. And then with the stool in general, like when we have procured them and sold them, a lot of them have been from offices and studios and like an Apple store that's replacing all these stools, or like after they've expired or whatever change up they do. It's been nice to know that these stand up over time from a price and style perspective. They really don't age.
Sweet. Now we're gonna go to something that I actually discussed with you guys, and remember you came to the office and showed you Artek manifesto. I'll try to open this manifesto. This is actually a pretty meaningful thing for myself, and it's been a meaningful thing for our former CEO, Mirko Kuhlberg, and it's for our current CEO, Marianne Goebel, and they're both fantastic, absolutely the most amazing ladies that I ever came across with. And this has meaning for all of us, and I feel like I speak on behalf of the whole Artek. What's the meaning? But so Artek was founded in 1935, October 15, and these four idealists, Aino and Alvar and Lichen and Niels Gustav Hall, they organized a meeting about 2 months after Artek was founded, and the purpose of this meeting was the plan was going to be Artek's mission. And like for a lot of different things, they took a little bit different approach on it, and they created this paper, which would be basically a graphic purpose statement expressing how the company aimed to merge art technology and everyday life. It mapped out how Artek would function, not just as a furniture store, but as a cultural movement, blending design, modern art, and communication to reshape the society. They saw Artek as a living idea, much like Bauhaus, how you can change life through better design. And this paper, which would be later known as Artek Manifesto, they wrote Artek with capital letters, and they divided Artek into 3 different segments. And these segments would be modern art, design and furniture industry, and propaganda. And this paper would kind of investigate these matters. Example that for modern art, that Artek wasn't just selling furniture, it wanted to educate the public through Artek. They emphasized exhibitions as like a social school, and they organized exhibitions, would it be sculptures, graphic design, photography, and they wanted to kind of like teach people about new way of living and using design to some extent. And I guess their goal was to connect art and everyday life, so modern living wasn't so cold and mechanical, but human and imaginative. And then within this industry, furniture industry, design and furniture industry, that was more about the kind of the functional and commercial side of Artek, of mass producing furniture and selling them. But it's funny that on the paper here, that furniture trade is actually placed on a lot, like a lower on the paper, and that furniture trade was never the purpose of the company. That was just a tool to kind of like help spread this modern living through like with tangible physical product. And propaganda is what we're doing here right now. I actually have to read this propaganda, but with propaganda they wanted to spread modern ideas and influence society's taste and values. It didn't mean manipulation, it meant communication and advocacy for modernism through exhibitions, catalogs, graphic design, and international partnership. Artek promoted modern design as a way of life. It linked Finland to a global modern movement showing that the good design could improve culture and daily living. And then at the end of this paper, where all these three segments would come together, that would declare what's going to be Artek's commercial and cultural mission. And it was increased worldwide activity. And it's pretty insane that these guys in the 1930s, they wanted to be global, and they actually succeeded on that pretty well. And here we are 90 years later discussing about these ideas. But here's an example. There's a little advertisement from, I would say, in the 40s. And this would kind of showcase the dealers that we had back in the days. An example in New York, it was Finn Sven Inc., who was manufacturing Artek products in Sweden after the Second World War because Finland didn't have resources to do it. Or here, Thomas D. Church, who you might have heard before, he was an Artek dealer in San Francisco in 1940s, which feels absolutely crazy that I get to live there now and continue the same thing.
It was not just about making chairs. It was a social vision. How do you think that's still relevant today?
Yeah, I think it's the same for us. I don't think it's as much about selling furniture sometimes as it is representation. I think in that same regard of like how like the goal of the manifesto, I think, and then seeing some of the policies that we're dealing with on like the business side and social side of like very like feels like we're being like isolated, feels very isolationist with like tariffs and everything. Like we're stressing out some of these relationships abroad in ways that feel the opposite of that. But it also strengthens how we have to get through that, around that, because there's always a way, and I think we're always trying to find what that way is.
Do you have your own manifesto somewhere in there? Do you have your own manifesto somewhere in there? Back of the office? Have you trapped with something?
Yeah, I think back in 2017, I made the original business plan. Took all of 30 minutes in a joint. And but it was real simple. It was Jared and I trying to survive, like Jared said earlier. But we very much knew where we connected besides the furniture, and was over fashion, over music, over art. So there are those parallels between us and Artek. Also the educational aspect, like Jared and I did not go to study furniture design or architecture or any of that, so we're still learning. We're learning right now as well. And a lot of our favorite things is to share it with everybody, and yeah.
Oh, here's another picture from Artek advertisement from New York at 45 Rockefeller Plaza. And this is Artek Paimio chair. And that Paimio chair was created when Aaltos won a competition to build Paimio Sanatorium, which was kind of like alternative space to treat lung disease, tuberculosis, back in 1930s. The work was finished in 1933, and as Aaltos, they kind of created. For Aaltos, they wanted to build the exterior, but they also wanted to build the interior on it. And that's like a full experience from them. And they're kind of like, this explains a little bit about the human-centered approach on it. So Paimio chair, it did have a function. So they placed them in Paimio Sanatorium, and with lung disease, you would sit on it, you would put your arms on the behind the chair, and it would kind of like press your. This is so. That's why we have the milk. But it's kind of like pushing your lungs so you could breathe better, and that's something that I have not yet come across in design. I've noticed the same things with Ray and Charles Eames. I think during the Second World War, U.S. military army asked them to create these 3D printed kind of like casts for legs that they could do it, and that's kind of like similar approach to some extent of healing and helping people, but not otherwise. Oh, and here are boys. So Yrjö Kukkapuro is a great, they call that Alvar walk so Yrjö could run. And we got to visit. Here is Yrjö Kukkapuro's daughter Ida and the granddaughter Isa, and they invited us to their space I wish I had pictures from there. They invited us to their space, the studio, and we got to kind of like explore it. Yrjö actually passed away this year in February at the age of 91. And it was pretty crazy because Ida told after his death that actually a week before he passed away, he said like, could we have our assistant here? I have this great idea of this chair that I want to design. So he really went down as like the designer that he was. How was this? How was Kukkapuro? Because I feel like this was one of the spaces that you were most inspired by too, right? And now you carry Kukkapuro design, right?
I'm a fan of his work for a very long time. We found like some Saab dealership Kukkapuro contract that was amazing. We found that like, I don't remember when that was. But yeah, it's a beautiful space. I think there also isn't any walls per se. Like there's no 90-degree angles in there as well. It's kind of like a spaceship. And it was a studio, I think. I have like a good iPhone photo, but the kitchen was just like floating. It blurred the lines between studio and home. The bathroom was in like a cylinder, which was like crazy. And it was fun and it was playful. I don't think it was as super serious as sometimes a lot of design can be here in the States, and it was nice going to the Aalto, like the university, and seeing all of the chairs being used like they should be used, like knocked around, like not, when it gets here, it's like a coveted item, it's like, don't touch that, you know? But there it was nice seeing like just the organic relationship with form and design.
We touched a little bit of base about Artek's second cycle.
And we could touch a little bit of base about Artek's second cycle. And this Artek second cycle, our vintage shop in Helsinki, which is about 6,000 square feet of basement space, got started actually back in 2007. Our former CEO, Mirko Kulberi, kind of like decided like, hey guys, let's start buying back the mid-century furniture. Like we did have an archive, but we just wanted to start collecting it because we kind of noticed that there's this little change coming within interiors. And then we just collected for 4 years. Then 2011, we noticed that there's huge demand for actually used furniture, especially Aaltos, which kind of has this ideology of like from mothers to daughters, from fathers to sons, and it only gets better throughout the time, and it collects patina, and it becomes better. So then in 2011, we opened the shop, and actually first project that we did with Second Cycle was Dover Street Market Roast Bakery in LA and here in New York, and I think in London. And now I would say this is easily the sexiest part of our whole company, having that little basement to spend time.
I got this shelf, a little small. I don't even know the name of that shelf. The shelf.
That one right there.
Yeah, a little small version of that. Yeah, but it was hand painted, which was nice. I think seeing it in that capacity is very different than how we're used to seeing it. what else did I get? I think I got like a Kai Frank bowl, who's another amazing Finnish designer, glass designer. I actually think the water glasses are Kai Frank on the table there, the picture. That bong, that glass bong that we did. I mean glass, I mean sculpture.
Does it actually work?
It does, yeah.
Oh yeah. We might pay a visit for that bong after this talk. Oh, here's you sitting in different spaces. I was just taking picture of you guys wherever we went here in the morning. But maybe we don't have to go there. But back to altos. It's a little bit deeper. What lessons from the altos' lives and work will stay with you in long term? Do you have something that you're gonna like take into your own practice?
Propaganda. That's what I learned tonight. Just communicating our ideas and spreading the wealth. I don't know. There's just so much to share.
Pride. I think there's like, when we travel, I feel like there's like proud Finnish designers, proud Italian designers, proud Japanese designers. Like, it's very kind of problematic to have a lot of American pride right now as like a designer, you know what I mean? Like that's, you know, if I wore this like American flag t-shirt, you know, so I think we kind of try to explore that. And I think we're also, yeah, kind of even jealous of that too as well. Like the university is a lot of like camaraderie, a lot of like working together, and I feel like our conditioning here makes us very competitive, and we kind of lose some of that. I think the university was like everyone's working together on random projects and helping each other out, and that was like surprising. I was like, you're letting them see your work? Like, you're not just like, you know, I think that was like a really big takeaway, and I think probably like one of the thing that I think of most when I think of like my experience there was like one of the students that we met at the university. We met again at the sauna, because that's just what you do. You go to the sauna. But he was just like, hey, what's up? I said, we were just talking, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I'm not used to somebody fully naked just talking to me, just not even, you know, not thinking that way. And I think it really made me realize how clothed we are, like spiritually, you know what I mean? We have sleeves and things up them, but there was very honest experience. And again, you wonder what sauna being so apart, what would you say is like?
A lot of it was like organically ended up at the But yeah, it's sauna, it's a big thing. But one reason why you go in naked is that you don't want to take any bacteria in there. It's kind of like you go in and cleanse it. And I think sauna is a Finnish invention, to be honest. Yeah, it's a Finnish invention, it's a Finnish word. We call it sauna. And it's also, I can't believe that I'm actually saying this on camera. So when you go in naked too, we go with a bunch of your guys, and then winter, the sea or the lake is frozen, and then we make a cut on it, and we all jump there one after each other, and we're all the same size after, so there's no checks. Or you asked me to do that. We're good, let's go back to Aalto. If you could ask Aaltos one question about today's design culture, what it would be?
I'll probably ask like who he doesn't like. Like, what do you think of like Donald Judd furniture? I feel like a lot of the biomorphic designers always like float that question because it's like kind of the opposite in a way.
Question.
I don't like his lighting. Yeah, I don't know where. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
What a bit. I like those hand grenades, things like that.
I'm gonna agree. I'm not gonna leave my brother hanging. Yeah, the lighting was interesting, but I see the relationship. I think there's like specific lighting designers and the carpenters and the wood designers. So it's a hand grenade. It's based off that.
Yeah, that's hand grenade.
It's a hand grenade. It's based off that.
Yeah, that's hand grenade. Oh, it's actually, the model is called A110, but the nickname of the lighting is hand grenade. And believe it or not, back in the days, we had a lot of problems to shipping them to the United States when they saw the custom papers. I feel like this is actually, I heard this one Finnish big Fortune 500 CEO, whatever, and he said like if Alvar Aalto would come here and he would see what we're doing, what he would say, and he was a modernist, and he would probably be like, what the hell, are you still bending that Finnish birch? Because he was always so much ahead on everything, and the materials kind of like grew throughout his career, and they changed it. But maybe we could turn into the crowd now, if there's some questions people want to ask from them. Aaron, oh.
Only because I just walked over here, and I just want to like addendum to what you said about Aalto being maybe, would he be embarrassed that we're still bending birch? Okay, so there's a certain sense of nostalgia that we in the 21st century have for design like this. But I think when there's so much variance of materials you can choose from, wood in this day and age feels really special and almost niche. So I hope that maybe he'd be proud of that in a way. I don't know, I just want to know what people think about that.
Yeah. I'm sure. I agree with you, 100%. He would be proud that we're still here, still doing this.
Jared, you mentioned that Finland has a lot of curved lines and softer lines in their architecture. And then we talked about how the people are just calmer and more genuine. Can you talk about the relationship between soft lines in design, in furniture and architecture, and how that, I guess the relationship it has on our emotional wellness and our overall wellness?
Great question. I think the curvature is definitely, in my experience and also our practice, very feminine form in a very, we have gone way too long without talking about Aino and Elissa. And if you watch his documentary, you can see just how important his wives, women are to the design practice and the atelier and everything that they've worked on. Aino Aalto was a trained carpenter, and Aalto wasn't, and I think that part definitely like stuck to me. Like he can't even, like he can't even, but like she can and did for a number of years. And I think a lot of design and designers in this era and time period get way too much credit for all the contribution that they've done. And she was very incredibly talented even in her own practice and her glassware and her own perspective, her own chairs. And that is also things that we have learned from early on when we started. A lot of like Ed and I's thinking can be very rectilinear and very like squared and 90-degree angles. And it wasn't until working with one of our former designers, Christine, where we started curvature. We started having that approach, even like the metal sign that we have outside of our store. It's curves, like rounded angles. Like we just started rounding things. I think men have a tendency to square things, at least in America for sure. And that introduction of curving things did not come from us, did not come from a male form. So that I would say is the softness and the response and the grace that is evident in a lot of his work and form.
Would you say that in your own design, it was important to find a balance between both, or do you lean more towards curvature now?
I think we're always searching for the balance of the two. I think the iPhone is kind of a good example of a rounded rectangle. I think that's like a compromised form that is very agreeable, very universal to, and that's something that we use in our practice. In our tables that Aiden's designed, we tend to not do as many 90-degree forms as we have in our past. And you can see the progression of like how they eventually turn the corner. Eventually turn the corner.
Sorry, this might be a leading question, but Jared, I'm very thankful you talked about Aino. I think you mentioned her twice now. Very special lady here at Future and Artek. But I'm curious to hear Ed and Jared talk about what collaboration means to you at Lichen, especially given these women that we so value, Aino Aalto, Elissa Aalto, Ray Eames. What does your collaboration look like over the past, I guess, 8 years now? And yeah, kind of what roles do you both take at Lichen?
We've definitely taken a step back in terms of directing how a design gets made. We used to be very controlling over what gets put out, but yeah, we've given up the reins and we are looking for another designer. So if there's anyone in the crowd that would like to, lend a hand, we're open. Yeah.
You mean collaboration? How's?
Well, obviously you guys aren't life partners, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, maybe not.
No. I think we approach collaboration very organically. I think a lot of, we try to, I think as much as what we do is intentional, there are a lot of the relationships we have, 90% of them are in person. We're not if you come to the shop and have a conversation with us and the energy is chill, you know, like that's kind of like how, and it's always been, we've had a chill, we've been doing this for a while with the Vitra and Artek team. Yeah, I would say organic. I think we pride ourselves on being very approachable when we can. If, you know, we try to be hospitable to anyone who walks through our doors. If you didn't catch that, it might have been in between getting something from the back chaos that we have our office, but yeah, and I think representation of everything is always playing in like what we're looking for. Like, is it too many bros? Are we just putting on too many this? You know, we try to spread the ball around for sure.
Yo, I'm kind of curious, just based on your trip to Finland and thinking about the design culture there, was there anything?
Is it happening? Is this happening? It's finally happening?
Was there anything that surprised you in regards to the Finnish design culture, in terms of similarities to New York design culture, or things that you were used to that you saw over there that maybe you wouldn't expect to see over there as well, or anything like that, regardless of, or whether it was at the university or any of the places you visited, like, yeah, any similarities that surprised you?
I think like the Aalto University is also like one of the leading textile and like technical fashion design educations you can get globally. I feel like we know with like FIT and Parsons and all like the actual fashion technical skills that come out of our education system here. But Aalto's was like really high up on that list. Like there's a whole section just for like the fashion designers, and I think that is also like a part where I was like, oh, this is like a true university. This is like about empowerment, you know what I mean? Where I feel like, yeah, I would say that the clothing aspect of it was like, and there's like the Antwerp 7 or the Belgium 7, and there's like, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see sort of why that skill set came from there. I would say that was surprising and a parallel. I'd got some clothing out there too from this other, do you remember? What was it? Yeah, we did a lot out there, but he got a really fly shirt out there. And the clothing and the vintage clothing is amazing out there as well. Clothing, yeah. No, this one. Go one more, yeah.
Hi, first, thank you. And second, I'm always thinking about the relationship between culture and design and how culture may shape design or design may shape culture. So, especially for your travels in Finland, how did you feel like those relationships played out? Was culture more shaping design? Was design more shaping culture? Or how did that kind of come to play?
Well, too long. When we first started, we always had this idea that, I mean, we were into fashion, but more specifically sneakers and that culture. And we always felt like back in 2017 that those furniture and sneakers would collide. And I don't know if it really did back in 2017 as a whole, but I feel like during COVID, that's when everything just started to kind of meld together, and you started to see a lot of fashion houses start releasing their own furniture. And I think we kind of timed that perfectly. But that is all to say that design can be derived from culture and vice versa.
Yeah, I think I know I keep going back to the sauna, but it's like the thing you do there. You know, if someone's visiting you here, you go to a bar there, you just do sauna. And we went to Kulturi. Yeah. It's a sauna. It's really fly, but instead of like a cold plunge, you can just go into like the Baltic Ocean, and you just dip there. You go from like not being able to breathe and like, I gotta get out of here. I don't know how people are just being normal. You know, it's 1,000 degrees in here, and then you dip into that water, and the effect it has on your nervous system is like, you know, you can go drink and sweat it out and reset. And I think we have a very heavy drinking culture in New York, socially, culturally, and we don't really reset it in a way that I think the Finnish people do, like consistently, you know, and it does something to people when you get there. You're like, yo, motherfucker, sauna every day, you know, and I can see the how you approach the day starting that way, and like how you design starting that way. It's got a level of clarity that I think we have a lot of, you know, toxins in a certain way. We're not being sweated out. So I would say like that is really integral to the culture. And I think also there's a lot of parallels between Finnish culture and Japanese culture that is like, there's books about it too. Like there is a thread, and it's like, oh, they get it. They get like sweating out of impurities to, it's a process that we're learning. We don't really have in our practice. We don't have an American conditioning, but you can't unsee it. And there's no good bathhouses like that. At least we're trying to find some. You got recommendations?
What a way to wrap this up, bro. Yeah. There's way to wrap this up, bro. What a way. Yeah, there's East Village, Russian Turkish bathhouse. That's a nice one, very rustic. And yeah, the saunas, it's a lifestyle almost. It's not the Andrew Huberman, 20 minutes in a sauna, 3 minutes in a cold plunge. No way. It's something that we grow up to. Everybody has them at their apartment buildings and their units. I feel like there's, on average, I think there's 3 million saunas in Finland. And it's really a lifestyle.
The keys, there's like old Finnish keys, wooden lockers still. That other one.
Oh yeah, kulttuurisauna. That one. Okay, thank you. This is a good wrap. Thank you everybody for coming in. We got alcohol here. That's another Finnish. That's a very Finnish thing too. And go and help yourself out. Thank you.